They say when the night is quiet and the stars breathe above the trees, you can still hear the whispers of old tales, the kind that lived before cities were built, before time had a name. Tonight, under this firelight, I bring you one such story, a tale that death itself once tried to silence, but failed. Long ago, in a land where the earth was red and the rivers sang to the sky, lived a creature both loved and despised, Mbe the tortoise. He was small, slow, but inside that shell of his, hid a mind sharper than a hunter's spear. In the village of Umwaka, people often said, if you see Mbe smiling, count your blessings. He's already 2 steps ahead of you. Mbe had outwitted everyone, from greedy chiefs to proud spirits. His cleverness had become legend. But cleverness, my friends, has a way of calling the wrong kind of attention. One evening, as the sun died behind the hills, a diviner came to the marketplace, her eyes white as moonlight, her voice heavy like rain on the roof of a shrine. She raised her staff and spoke, "The one who thinks himself wiser than all shall meet his match. Death shall visit his doorstep before the next full moon." Mbe laughed, showing his yellow teeth. "Death? Ah! Death is a cowardly spirit. He fears laughter and wisdom. Let him come. I will offer him palm wine and stories until he forgets why he came." The diviner's eyes glowed. "Even laughter cannot bribe death, little one. The moon is already watching." That night, as the wind crept through the village and the fire danced low, Mbe sat alone polishing his shell. He chuckled softly, but his heart was uneasy. For the first time, clever Mbe began to wonder, what trick could one play on death itself? By sunrise, the prophecy had spread like wildfire. Every child, every palm wine tapper, every old woman at the grinding stone whispered, "Death is coming for Mbe." Mbe strutted through the village square, pretending not to care. But every smile felt forced. Every shadow looked longer. He gathered his friends, monkey, parrot, and antelope, and boasted, "My friends, when death comes, I shall make him my guest. You will see, I will live longer than the hills themselves." Monkey giggling, "Mbe, you may trick chiefs and hunters, but death has no ears for riddles." Parrot, "And if you hide, he'll find you. If you run, he'll follow. His footprints are everywhere." Mbe, mocking, "Then perhaps death should rest under my shell. I have space for a fool or two." The animals laugh uneasily. But behind their laughter, fear lingered, because even the spirits of the forest had gone silent, as though waiting. That night, Mbe visited the oldest woman in the village, Mama Nedi, known for her wisdom. "Mama," he said softly, "you've lived long. Tell me, how does one escape death?" She looked at him long and hard. "You don't escape death, Mbe. You prepare for him." "Prepare?" "Yes, by making peace with the world before he knocks." "Ah!" Mbe laughed nervously. "I am not done with this world, Mama. I still have tricks to teach." "Then beware, child. Pride is the rope that pulls death closer." She hands him a small charm wrapped in cloth. "When the air turns cold and the crickets go silent, hold this tight. It will tell you when he is near." But as he walked home under the moonlight, the charm in his hand began to tremble. He froze. Somewhere behind him, footsteps, slow, heavy, echoing like drums in a cave. He turned. Nothing. But the air had changed. The forest was holding its breath. And in that whisper, Mbe knew death had heard the challenge. That night the moon rose red, the color of palm wine and prophecy. The air was thick, heavy, and silent. Even the owls refused to call. Inside his hut, Mbe sat by the dying fire, his eyes darting to the doorway. The charm Mama Nedi had given him lay in his trembling hand, warm, almost alive. A faint hiss fills the air. Then he heard it. A soft rustle, like leaves dragging against the earth. Slow footsteps. 1, 2, 3. And a voice smooth and cold as river stones. Voice, "May, tortoise of 1,000 tricks. Are you awake?" Mbe froze. The fire flickered, then dimmed. Shadows stretched across his walls. He swallowed hard. "Mbe," forced laughter, "who calls upon me at this unholy hour? If you are a thief, know that my wisdom is my only treasure." The voice chuckled, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. Voice, "Wisdom, ha! I've collected the skulls of kings and the bones of prophets. None have brought me laughter. Perhaps tonight you will. A sudden gust blows out the flame. Darkness. And there he was. Not a man, not a spirit, but something in between. Tall, cloaked in darkness, with eyes like dying embers. He carried no weapon, for he needed none. Death, do not fear, Tortoise. I've come not as your enemy, but as your destiny. Imbi, nervous chuckle. Ah, my destiny arrives uninvited and unannounced. You could at least have sent a message. Death tilts his head, almost amused. Death, I did. Through the diviner, through your trembling charm, through the silence of the forest. Yet you kept laughing. Tortoise, I laugh because I'm alive, and that, my friend, is something you cannot understand. Death leaned forward, his cloak whispering like smoke. Death, you think you can bargain with me, little one? Tortoise, bargain? No, but perhaps we can make a deal. Death, a deal? Tortoise, yes, you see, I am a storyteller. My words feed villages, calm children, make even warriors weep. What if I tell you a story so powerful that even you will forget your duty? Just for one night? Death, you amuse me. Speak then. Tell your story. And so, Umbe began. He told tales older than the rivers, of spirits who turned into rain, of hunters who wrestled thunder, of lovers reborn as trees. His voice wove through the hut like smoke, rich and alive. Death listened, unmoving. Then, slowly, he sat down beside the fire pit. Hours passed. The night deepened. Mbi's throat grew dry, his shell heavy, but he did not stop. Finally, as the first bird cried from the hills, he whispered his final line. And so the tortoise said to Death, "If you ever come for me, come not with anger, but with curiosity, for even death can learn from life." Death's eyes softened. Death, you have a clever tongue, Tortoise. Your story stirs even the stillness in me. Tortoise smiled faintly. Mbe, then perhaps you'll grant me one favor. Death, speak. Mbe, allow me one more day, just one. I have a tale left untold, one that must live on after me. Death, one day, but when the sun sets again, I will return. No story, no charm, no trick will keep me away. Tortoise, bowing, then let tomorrow's fire burn bright. Death vanishes like mist in sunlight. The charm cools in Umbe's hand. The dawn broke, golden and trembling. Children played again. Birds sang. The market opened, but deep inside his shell, Umbe knew he had only one day to outwit the inevitable. Morning crept across the land like a thief returning home, and there sat Umbe, eyes red from sleeplessness, shell dulled by worry. The night's visitor was gone, but his words remained heavy as stone. When the sun sets again, I will return. Tortoise had always believed that no problem was too big for a clever mind. But how do you trick what you cannot see? How do you deceive what already knows when and where you will fall? He looked toward the horizon, where the sun rose like a golden drum. Then slowly, he smiled. Tortoise to himself, if death comes for the living, perhaps I should not be among them when he arrives. He gathered his friends once more, monkey, parrot, and antelope, and led them to the great baobab tree at the edge of the forest. Tortoise, my friends, today I will do what no creature has done. I will visit the land of the dead before death comes for me. They gasped. Monkey, are you mad? No one crosses that river and returns. Parrot, the land of the dead is for shadows, not shells. Antelope, what will you do there? Tortoise, grinning, I will greet death first and tell him he's late. He asked them to dig a deep pit beneath the baobab, wide enough to hold his shell and hide him from the sun. When they were done, he lowered himself inside, whispering, "When the sun sets, cover me with leaves and clay. Let no sound betray me." As the day wore on, the world went on as usual. Traders shouting, children playing, palm wine bubbling. But beneath the earth, Umbe waited, silent, still, breathing shallow. When the last light of the sun kissed the horizon, the ground grew cold. A shadow moved through the village, tall, slow, unstoppable. Death had come. Death, Umbe, the sun has set. Where are you?" He moved from hut to hut. He peered into the market, into the wells, under the trees. Nothing. Death, low, puzzled. Even the clever must breathe. Where does your breath hide? At last, Death came to the great baobab. He sensed something strange, the faintest heartbeat beneath the soil. He knelt, pressed his hand to the ground, and smiled. "Death, you think you can bury yourself before your time? Foolish tortoise. The earth belongs to me as well." Tortoise, weak but clear. Wait, you came too soon. I've already gone to the land beyond. You must be chasing my shadow." Oh, Death freezes. Death, your shadow? Tortoise, yes, I left it here while I crossed over. You cannot kill what has already departed. And for the first time in eternity, Death hesitated. Death softly. "If you are truly beyond, then I shall find you there." He turned, his cloak swirling like smoke, and vanished into the mist, toward the realm beyond the living. Inside his pit, waited. 1 hour, 2, the whole night. When the first rooster crowed, he clawed his way out, covered in dust, weak but alive. Tortoise, laughing breathlessly. Even death can be tricked, if you tell the right story. He danced, slow and clumsy but victorious. The villagers who found him thought he had risen from the dead. They ran, shouting, "has conquered death. The tortoise lives forever." But high above the clouds, in a realm unseen, Death stood watching, silent, smiling faintly. Death to himself, "Let him laugh for now, for even the clever cannot run forever." And though walked again under the sun, he never truly escaped that whisper behind his shell, the promise that one day the shadow would return. And so the morning came again, a morning brighter than any had ever seen. The sky glowed like bronze, and the earth itself seemed to sigh, as though relieved that another day had found her alive. When the villagers saw walking toward the market covered in dust, they froze. Children screamed. Women dropped their baskets. One old man fell to his knees and muttered, "The dead have come walking." Lifted a tired hand, smiling weakly. "Not dead, my friends, merely clever, and perhaps a little lucky." They surrounded him, touched his shell, asked 1,000 questions. How had he returned? Where had he been? What did death look like? only said, "Death looks like patience wearing a cloak. He is not cruel, my friends, only certain, and perhaps a little too curious." That day the chief himself sent for In the great hall, beneath the hanging gourds and carved totems, the tortoise was brought before the council. "Chief, we have heard of your journey, Is it true? Did you truly cheat death?" Tortoise, bowing, "No, my chief. I only delayed him with the story." Chief, smiling, "Then tell us the lesson you learned, for we too must face our endings." Looks around the room, his eyes soft but wise. "Tortoise, I learned that wisdom is not how you escape death, but how you live before he arrives." Tortoise, "All my life I chased cleverness. I wanted to win every argument, every game, every trick. But when death came, he did not care about my victories. He only cared that I had lived. So now I will live slower. I will share my stories. I will let the laughter linger longer than my fear." The chief nods. The crowd hums with quiet respect. From that day on, became not the trickster, but the storyteller of Umwaka. Children gathered around him each evening as the fire crackled. And though the villagers laughed and cheered, none failed to notice that when the flames burned low, would sometimes fall silent, staring into the darkness as though listening for an old friend. Tortoise, whispering to himself, "Death, you may find me again one day, but not before I've filled the world with stories." He smiles and tosses a small stick into the fire. And maybe, just maybe, that is why even today, when a tortoise withdraws into its shell, the elders say he is not hiding. He is simply telling another story to the spirits who listen within. And so, my friends, if you ever find yourself alone under the moonlight, and the world feels too quiet, listen closely, for somewhere out there, beneath a baobab or in a quiet hut, the tortoise is still whispering, teaching even death itself how to laugh. In every African story, there is laughter, wisdom, and a little truth hiding in the shadows. Tonight's tale reminds us no one can outrun death, but we can live deeply enough that even death pauses to listen. If this story touched your spirit, don't let the fire die. Subscribe, share it, and join me again next week, right here at DuskfireTales, where the old stories still breathe.